Good morning and welcome to Table Talks on Today with Paul. Today we're going to talk about inspiration, even though it's quite obvious what I've got here is a bunch of action figures. Believe it or not, action figures aren't just for kids anymore, and I think that's been a known fact for a while. There's quite a few of us adult collectors out there who like movies, TV, and comic book type art and storylines. So you can see over here some great creators such as Alex Ross can really make some beautiful artwork out of what used to be considered kid stuff. While you're going down the aisles of your local box store or your local toy store, especially if you're a parent, you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this to myself? The kids are screaming, they're kicking and screaming in the aisles. Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, I want that. Not fun. But you know what? You might be doing yourself a favor by finding some cool new things that might help inspire you day to day. Now, the reason being that this is inspiration for some of us is because we have characters that we latched onto. Maybe we, in some way, shape, or form, wish that we could be like them or have the strength that they have. Obviously, Walking Dead is a wildly popular TV show originating from a comic book, and that's why I have loads of Walking Dead action figures here. It happens to be one of my favorites. You got Rick Grimes here on my left, Daryl Dixon on my right, and of course a whole slew of characters right down the middle here. Daryl Dixon and his motorcycles in the middle there, front and center. But those aren't my only favorites. Of course, I love the comic universe of Marvel. Said that backwards, but more widely known as MCU, Marvel Comic Universe. I love Wolverine. He's my favorite character, displayed prominently here right in the center, right next to Iron Man, one of my other favorites. For somebody who doesn't have any superpowers, I think he's awesome. Of course, he is the counterpart to Batman over here for Marvel. Gotta like the guy who doesn't have any natural powers but can afford to imbue himself with those. So for me, on a daily basis, I like to surround myself with these inspiring characters. You know, day-to-day life can be so mundane, but in our own small ways, we find places where we need to be strong and have some courage. And sometimes we can just take that little extra boost from the things we surround ourselves with. A lot of times these days, these action figures are referred to as articulated comic book art, and for good reason. They've come a long way since the 90s at least, and especially the 80s. They have a wide range of articulation in many cases, depending on what you're buying, and you can get them in poses that emulate the characters as they are represented on screen and the pages of your comic books. Now, in certain instances, you've got the larger characters here that are more so statuesque. They maybe pose just a couple different directions, but you don't really need them to pose too much because they're gonna stand there anyways. There's many display options as represented here. One of the very cool options, I think, is this dynamic posing stand. You can have this character flying through the air depending on what the character is. I've got Wolverine here lunging towards you through the air, and you can raise the base up, you can move the arm around side to side, up and down. It's just got a little clear plastic claw to hold on to the midsection of the figure, so it's not too distracting from the actual visible details and artwork of the miniature sculpture, if you will. And in a lot of ways, that's how I feel these are. Obviously, I've got some nice display cases here for my large Walking Dead figures. At your local craft store, your local hobby store, maybe Hobby Lobby. Locally here, we have a Jeffrey Allen's. You'll pick these up pretty cheap. Cheap plastic one over here is not the high end, but it is relatively the same as this higher end glass one, with a nice sturdy heavy base to it and a reflective mirror flooring to it, if you will. But they're meant for basketballs and such, for displaying autographs and that sort of thing. They're really nice for display options to keep the dust off your action figures. That is not fun to deal with if you, especially when you got a little bit of sizzle of the bacon in the background, seeing it is morning time. A little grease fly up in the air, you know, you get, of course, plenty of dust in the air. This down here with Daryl Dixon on both of his motorcycles, as we know from The Walking Dead if you're a fan. That in particular is for model airplanes and such, model cars that people build, just for the same purposes of keeping them clean, low maintenance. So with that being said, let's show you here what we got. Pull this off ever so gently so I don't knock everything down. Perfect. We've got Daryl Dixon with his bow up here, and Daryl is a nice tall, I'd say he's probably a 12-inch action figure. Like I said, not as posable as many of the smaller action figures, such as his counterpart, his mini counterpart here. But what I really want to get to is I want to show you the possibilities here with the display case. And I've got his little poncho here that could go on the 12-inch figure. I've chosen not to, but I put it in the display case as a nice little accessory of his. Now, what I've also decided to do, seeing as that this is 100% clear, see my face right now, I decided to accessorize that with the hobby store. And I found this nice glass that you can cut out, and I thought this is a nice swampy green, kind of apocalyptic, kind of natural setting kind of thing for Daryl to be walking on. And I learned how to cut glass a little bit, and I didn't do it perfect, but I got it to fit, and it looks nice. That's what's important. Now on this other side, we've got Rick Grimes. We're going to lift this up ever so carefully, not to knock everything down. Set the top to the side there. As you can see, we got Rick here posing in a classic Rick move, where he's got his large caliber gun drawn. And he's not trying to stand up so well, but we're just going to show you him in his classic pose. But what I really want to get to is he also came with some accessories, and for him he had this nice rifle that is possible to display in his hands if you use the right arm. But what I got that resting on is a little ring that actually was meant for the basketball to sit center in the middle of the case. So there's nice little accessories that weren't meant for what we're using them for that do work to our advantage. Now those are some nice display options. Now I just want to talk to the nitty gritty here, and let's show you a little something, some classic 1980s style that kind of came back into the forefront as a nostalgia kind of thing. And we got these miniature little bobblehead figures, and as you can see, we got the classic black Spider-Man suit here that came out during what is that Secret Wars in the 1980s. And these were some of the first action figures. Of course, I've done some of my research by watching my toy reviewers on YouTube to know that they have little to no posability at all. So now we're to this nice classic kind of like realistic art style these days. But this is where they started from, and luckily I was fortunate enough to find this Walgreens exclusive, only Deadpool I have. I missed out on the Marvel Legends. And then of course my favorite, Wolverine. Gotta love those guys. Now, as a special treat to myself, I decided to go ahead and purchase a couple items I had no idea were coming out at all, but I really loved Dragon Ball Z when it came out, and had a lot of fun with that. Found a lot of inspiration in that as well. And I just recently found out that they released some new action figures called Dragon Star series. And so here we are. We've got us first one that caught my eye was Frieza over here. I think the detailed paintwork is great. I think it's beautiful for this size figure, and I just believe the figures look pretty awesome. And here I got Vegeta. He's my main man on Dragon Ball Z. I really love how his character is filled out in the series. Not my favorite painting rendition of Vegeta, but seeing as this is such a great looking articulated series, I just couldn't resist picking them up. So how about we go ahead and unbox these guys and see what we got in here. So here we go. We got my main guy Vegeta. Get a trusty knife out here, and we're gonna see if we got a couple little to-dos over here. Any good collector, be ever so gentle, very nice sharp knife, and break the seal on the side. You know, I don't believe in keeping every action figure enclosed, as you can see. I actually like to pull them out and enjoy them, but I still just likewise like to keep the box for storage purposes. Oh yeah, look at that, very cool. And as likewise, as per usual, rather, they always include these nice little graphics in the back of the box that really grab you when you're at the store. They look really nice. Now on this particular one, I'm not seeing any little twisty ties. It looks like they made the plastic perfect for just snapping the figure in. A lot of times you get those little pesky twisty ties. And along with the Marvel Legends series, they did a similar thing here, I can see, where they actually have the build-a-figure type of thing going on, where they got a dragon's tail. So I'm pretty sure, I can almost guarantee that we're building Shenron there. Oh, these are very some crisp joints here. You can see how he can just move around and everything. Just fly right at the camera at you. Boom! Right there, just like that. Here, look up. There you go. He's pretty awesome. I like that. Let's see if we can get him to stand up here. Good enough. Not my favorite pose, but it'll work for now. Now let's pop open Frieza here and see what he looks like. I'm pretty excited about this. This one, it looks like really awesome. It's got a really cool paint job on it. I like the shadowing effects on him. Just really nice. And I'm not a bad guy collector. I don't really care for a lot of the bad guys. Don't really know why. I guess I always like the heroes for some reason. But here we go. I just couldn't resist this one. He looks so good. Looks like, okay, the tail's gonna pop out through the plastic through a hole. Really in there tight. There we go. And actually, surprisingly enough, a little bit of wiggle. The tail came through pretty seamless. Oh yeah, I like how the joints are pretty well, they seem like they're really on there nice. They don't look like they're going to loosen up too much. So let's go ahead and show you Frieza here. Very cool shadow effects and everything, looks real nice. Let me show you what the package on here looks like. So as per usual these days, we actually got some accessory hands so we can switch up the hands. Maybe we like him in a you know, certain power move kind of hand position. You never know. Closed fists are on here now. Looks pretty cool though. And yeah, there you go. There's that Shenron portion there. I guess you gotta collect them all, huh? I also had a Goku at the store. I'm not big on Goku either. He's just a little too clean cut for me. He's ultra good. He's the super ultra good guy. Let's see if we can get this Frieza to stand up. His tail is really heavy. I don't know that we get him on there standing up freeform or not. That's going to be a question of the day. I'll have to work on that one later. He's certainly trying to do the splits. Look at that. Oh, Frieza doing the splits. Well, I guess he likes to break dance sometimes. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's the next thing we're going to do. Is I'm going to show you a good visible picture of Daryl and his motorcycles. Of course, here's his old bike. Just look at the detail. McFarlane action figure company, of course Todd McFarlane of the Spawn comic books, got into the action figure line a long time ago, in the early O's, a long time ago. Well, for some of us that's a long time ago. I first was drawn to his sports figures because their amount of detail. So when starting the lineup was the standard, McFarlane blew him out of the water. There was no choice. And now look at how he's continuing down the road with these beautiful detailed action figures and accessories. So that's really all I've got for you today, and I do appreciate your time and your viewership, of course. But whatever it is that inspires you, whatever gives you a smile, lets you have fun, go out there and pursue it. Of course, it's a beautiful thing we have. We have the freedom to do such. So I thank you for your time. Hope you have a great day, and thank you for watching this video. Bye-bye.